Hi YouTube, this is Gray 1951, and I'm back for these series movies from A to Z, and we're up to the letter S. So I would like to show you the film that I've chosen. This is not a first watch film because it's something I've had for a long time, watched many times, and I'm choosing this because I want to recommend it to people if they don't know about it, because it's a very, very worthwhile film. Okay, from the year 1963, this is The Sadist. Alright, The Sadist. I have two copies of this, two different DVDs. Here's another one from Alpha Video. And this is a very low budget film, made very quickly. I think I read that it was made in just 2 weeks for $33,000. And it is based on the real life story of the serial killer Charles Starkweather, who he was a 20-year-old guy, and with his 14-year-old girlfriend, Carol Ann Fugate, they traveled through Nebraska, I think it was, and they just killed a whole bunch of people, including some members of her family, and stole some stuff, and just basically just were maniacs. And so they were finally caught, and Charles was executed in 1959, and the girl was put into prison for something like 17 and a half years, and then she was released. But they were the inspiration for not only this film, but also Terrence Malick's Badlands and Natural Born Killers and a few others. But this was the first. And this film stars an actor, or you could say he's a non-actor, named Arch Hall Jr. And I've mentioned him before. He's a genuine cult figure. A lot of people know about this guy. They know a lot about him, and I'd like to introduce you to him. Arch Hall Jr. was a teenager whose father, Arch Sr., was an entrepreneur of all time. Back in the 30s and 40s, he had been a stuntman, he had been an actor in a lot of westerns, and did a whole bunch of stuff. And then he decided to get into filmmaking in the late 50s, and he formed a company called Fairway International. He wanted to make low-budget action and exploitation-type films for the drive-in crowd, for teenagers. And lo and behold, he had a teenage son, so he put Arch Jr. in most of his films. And between the years 1961 and 1965, Arch Hall Jr. made 6 films. They were The Choppers, Wild Guitar, Ega, which is probably the one he's most known for. That was parodied by the Mystery Science Theater 3000 crowd. It's the one about the movie where Richard Kiel, the big tall guy, plays basically a caveman who has been living, somehow survived the troglodyte age, and he's now interacting with real life human beings and teenagers and all this. Anyway, so that's probably the most well-known film that Arch made. The same year, in 1963, he made The Sadist. In fact, they were released on a double bill, strangely enough. And then he made 2 other films. One was called The Nasty Rabbit, one was called Deadwood 76, which was a western he made with his father. And then Arch Hall Jr. left filmmaking and he became a pilot. He was a commercial pilot for many years, worked as a private pilot also. He wrote a novel and seemed to have a very exciting private life. And then after he retired from being a pilot, he seems to have kind of reconnected with his brief film career. Now he goes to conventions, he does interviews. Oh, he also played the guitar and sang and wrote songs, and he had a group called the Archers that he worked with back when he was making films, and he sang in most of his films, although not in The Sadist. And so now he's got his band back together and he plays at conventions, and I would really love to see him because he sounds like just a cool guy who has a lot of interesting things to share with people. He really likes his fans, and yeah, I would really love to see him. Anyway, he has said many times that his favorite experience in films was doing The Sadist, because it was the one time he was given a chance to do a serious acting job, and he was very good in this film. Okay, so The Sadist, the plot of The Sadist is deceptively simple. 3 school teachers, 2 men and a woman, are traveling to Los Angeles to see a Dodgers baseball game, right? This is Sunday afternoon. And they're out in the middle of nowhere, and they start to have car trouble. So they pull over into this kind of very remote house, which has an auto repair shop as an outbuilding attached to the property. And the property is filled with junk cars and car parts all over the place. And so they pull over, and there's no one there. They shout, "Hello, is there anybody around?" They look in the house, and they see that the door is wide open. There is warm food on the table, but there's nobody around, nobody but a cat. Well, one of the teachers knows something about cars. He determines that he needs a fuel pump, so he looks around the property, and he finds another car with a fuel pump, and he's getting ready to take it out, I guess planning to leave some money or a note for these people not to steal the fuel pump, because he seemed like a pretty honest dude. But anyway, while he and the other man, this man is probably supposed to be around 30 years old. The other man is around 50 and is married and has children. And the woman is a very young woman. She's very beautiful. And they're all very formal with each other. The two men are dressed up in suits and ties. The woman is very well dressed with high heels, matching gloves. And they all call each other Mr. and Miss. But they seem to be very, they like each other, and they're all going to see a baseball game. Anyway, so while they're in the process of doing this, out comes this guy named Charlie Tibbs and his crazy girlfriend, played by Arch Hall Jr. and Marilyn Manning. And they, Charlie has a gun. Over the course of the next 92 minutes of the film, because it goes in real time, they terrorize these people. Charlie says, "Go ahead and fix the car, mister, because we're going to take it and get out of here." And so that's what starts it all. And it's a very, very serious film. There's not a light moment in this. Now, I will say that as good as Arch Hall Jr. is as this character, there are moments when his characterization goes a little bit too far over the top, where he's almost doing a caricature rather than a character. But that doesn't really spoil his performance. He's very, very convincing as a guy who's completely crazy and is cruel and just wants to hurt people. And Marilyn Manning as his girlfriend, it's funny, Caroline Fugate was only supposed to be 14 years, well, she was in real life 14 years old. Marilyn Manning, at the time, she looks like she's about 35, but it doesn't matter, because she also gives the impression of being a real lunatic, even though she has no dialogue in the film. All she does is kind of hang over her boyfriend and giggle a lot and whisper into his ear. Other than that, she doesn't say anything. Kind of makes her characterization all that more creepy. And Arch at the time was about, 1963, would have been about 19 or 20 years old. So he was about the right age for the character. And the movie is filled with, well, not a lot of violence, but the violence that it has, it is, to me, all the more disturbing because it is so natural and so believable, the things that he does to these people. And I've gone on record before saying that I don't like to see violence in films. It makes me feel very uncomfortable, but I can understand that it's necessary to advance the story and to establish something about people. And it certainly fills the bill in this film. And I have to say that all the other actors, the two men and the woman, they are, I think only one of them was a professional. Richard Alden, who played the young teacher, his name is Ed in the film. He has several credits on Internet Movie Database, that he's done some television and some other films, usually very small parts. But the other two, the guy who played, Don Russell, who played the older teacher, he has been an actor in some things. He has been a production manager and assistant director, but really didn't have much of a career. Interestingly enough, for those of you who have seen the movie directed by Ray Dennis Steckler called The Incredibly Strange Creatures Who Stopped Living and Became Mixed Up Zombies, Don Russell was the production manager for that film, and he also played the character of Ortega, the weird guy in the ugly makeup who was assisting the gypsy who was turning all these men into zombies. So if you've seen that movie, that was Don Russell. I did not know that until I found out on the Internet Movie Database. It was kind of a neat little piece of trivia there. But he's very convincing in this film. He's very believable. And the woman who plays the teacher named Doris is played by a non-actress named Helen Hovey. Now, this is her only credit. She never did anything else in films or television before or after The Sadist. She got the job because she is Arch Hall Jr.'s cousin. Okay, so it's a big family thing. And she has a trace of an accent which I can't identify. It might be a Swedish accent, it might be German, although she speaks English very well. She is absolutely beautiful in a very, very natural way. And she is so good in this movie. Just very convincing in everything she does. It's actually a shame that she never did anything else, because she could have turned into a very, very good actress. The cinematography is done by Vilmos Zsigmond, who did a lot of these low budget films, not only for Steckler but also for Arch Hall Sr. At Fairway International. That's how he got started. He's using his English pseudonym William Zsigmond, and the cinematography is fantastic. It really is fantastic, black and white. And the director is a guy named James Landis, who also doesn't have a lot of film credits, but I'll tell you, the whole package is very good. He and Zsigmond must have understood what they had in Helen Hovey, because they photograph her beautifully. They give her a lot of close-ups from every possible angle, and she goes through a lot of physical and mental anguish in this film, and some of the close-ups are just staggeringly beautiful and sensitive. She looks like one of the women in some of those Ingmar Bergman Swedish films. She is that beautiful, and she passed away just a few years ago. She had I guess according to Arch Hall Jr., had a very long and happy private life, and I don't think she ever did any kind of conventions or interviews about the Sadists. And in a way, it would be wonderful to be able to see her and to hear her talk about these things, but in another way, it turns her into sort of an enigma, because this is the only film we have with her. And I keep going on and on about this, but she really is very, very good in this film. It's one of the things I would recommend about it. And the film is very stark, and it's not pleasant to watch. In fact, in some places it's very, very difficult. But it's rewarding in the sense that you've seen something very powerful. And to think that it was made for such a low budget so quickly with non-actors, it's pretty amazing. And I have to say that I don't want to give any details away, because I really want to encourage my friends on YouTube and anybody who might watch this to give this film a chance and look for it, or send away for the DVD or something. And I want you to see it. But the climax of the film, what happens toward the end, it comes so far out of nowhere that I think it will absolutely blow you away when you see it. The last thing in the world you're expecting to see happens to one of the characters. And it does not have a happy ending. I will tell you that. I mean, it's not one of these everything is wrapped up and everybody's safe and all. Don't want to give you that impression. In a way, it was very much ahead of its time. This was 1963, and as the decade of the 60s progressed, there were more and more films toward the end of the 60s and into the 70s that had a very pessimistic view, and they did not have happy endings, as most Hollywood films had had for decades. So this is one of the first to do something like that. So okay, I've gone on and on too much, and I want to get this posted because I waited a little bit too long, and I'm always late with these things. But okay, that's my film for the letter S, The Sadist. Please give it a chance. Think about seeing this. It's wonderful. All right. Comments are welcome. Anybody who has seen this and whatever you think about it, please start a conversation. I'd like to hear. Take care, folks.